Okay. Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome to this get-together where we talk about online teaching. I just pressed record, and so now we're recording. And if you look at your top right, if you open up the chat or the participants, you should be able to see a red kind of blinking light on the top right. So that means that someone is recording. So there's an indicator of that, so you'll know. So no one can record without you knowing, okay? All right, so another thing is when you record, you have an option of recording of, you can record onto, sorry, where it saves the recording is onto like the cloud. Oh, hi Petula, thanks for coming. It can get recorded onto the cloud where then you can just share it there, or you can download it, record it onto your computer. So that's what I've been doing because I've been uploading to YouTube so that it's easier to disseminate, but it's up to you, all right? And then when you record, the file, it's dramatically different depending upon what you're using to record. So with Zoom, the recording is actually very small. So you can get a really small file size, like about 100 megabytes, even for an hour and a half. So it's very easy to deal with. Whereas I used QuickTime before, and the file gets much, much bigger, especially if you're recording video, that kind of thing. So it's kind of up to you how you want to do it. Right?
Does it record the video screen also, or just your audio, or can you set that?
Okay, you can set it. You can set it. So if you're sharing a screen, it'll record that. So if one of you decides to share your screen right now, and I'm recording, then that will get recorded. So it moves back, but one thing it doesn't do, I think, is it does not record the chat. Okay, so whatever happens in chat, it gets recorded as a separate transcript. So what you see in the center is what gets recorded. Does that make sense?
So like now this sort of gallery screen,
I'm
looking at would be recorded?
I think so. I think so. For mine, because I have it set on gallery screen, it might be different for you. If you're recording it and you have it on speaker view, it might create a speaker view video. Okay.
Can I ask a stupid question? How do I get to gallery?
Questions.
I'm on portrait. How do I get to gallery?
Okay.
I don't see where I.
No problem. On your top right, in the black area, there should be like a thing that says speaker view or like an enter full screen.
I see enter full screen.
Okay, so you can, on the left, there should be a button that says speaker view, and then there should be a button that says like
gallery view.
Gallery view. It looks like a cube with little okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think the benefits, the pros and cons of the speaker view versus the gallery view is the gallery view is better for like everyone's just chatting and we're all talking. Where speaker view I think is really good for when someone is presenting. So like right now, because I'm talking a lot, it could be good for speaker view. And then what happens with the top is whoever talks, their image pops up to the top. Does that make sense? So it notices when you're talking. And when it kind of registers that the sound is coming in, then your video screen will pop up to the top. Okay. Cool. All right. Let's see.
Can I just make a comment? It's about the recording, because I don't know if it was the university email or just our faculty email, but there's some concern about recording lectures with undergrad students with their faces are on there, that you can't do it. You have to ask everybody permission, or so they've actually told us not to do that.
Yeah. So what I've been doing is I've just been asking for permission, and if people are okay with it, they are. And then I also told them that I also told all the students that you do not have to show your face if you don't want to. And I think that this is an inclusivity kind of thing, because not everyone has that kind of space at home. Not everyone can show their face. Not everyone maybe has a camera. A lot of people might just be on the phones or uses too much data, things like that. So I think it's important to be aware of these kinds of differences. But at the same time, as the instructor, I think it's important for me to show my face. Those of you who are just coming in right now, just letting you know we're recording. So please send me a message if you're not comfortable with that, and I can stop the recording. Okay? Any other quick questions? No? Okay, cool. Why don't we do this? I think maybe what we can do is we can do introductions first. That way everyone gets a chance to see how the sound works. If you want to try to share your screen or something like that, and we can just kind of take our turns. Okay? Gina, do you want to go first?
Sure. I'm Gina. I work at Hong Kong U. Thanks everyone for coming. Thank you very much. Yeah, you know me. Thanks, Jason, for organizing this. I haven't actually taught a class on Zoom yet, so I'm looking forward to it. I've been recording my lectures, but I'm going to stop doing that because I don't want to have to go into the office. So I'm going to be using Zoom. And I'm curious too about people who are using both Zoom and Panopto. about pluses and minuses. I've done like a little bit of sample filming with Panopto, and I haven't been happy. I've been a little bit happier with Zoom. So.
Okay, so I guess the screen go this way, plot-wise. So I'm Alvin Wong. I'm a colleague in the same department, ComLit, with Gina and Jason and Aaron. And then I feel like I know most of you. I know. Nice to see Clara. We met each other at conferences. And yeah, I'm also curious about using Zoom. And I haven't tried it yet, but my tutors for one large course just tried it, and seems like and just using it now, it does seem more interactive than Panopto. And I recorded a few video lectures for Panopto also, so I will definitely try to use Zoom with my students. And I think the difficulty is about setting up time, and one of my concerns too is to maybe give more flexibility for my students, for those who cannot make it this time. Maybe as long as they can do it 5 times this semester, they would meet a certain level of requirement or percentage for the course. Maybe that's useful for myself at least. And thanks, Jason, for setting this up.
Okay, who's next? I guess
I'll do it.
Okay, great.
Hello, I'm Rowena. I met Jason at the MALCS course.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm currently teaching. Hello, I'm currently teaching at the Institute of Vocational Education. So my students are not very motivated. I've tried. I've tried recording videos using QuickTime, as Jason suggested earlier on, but like what he said, the file size, the files are really, really big. And so recently I've switched to Panopto. I've uploaded my videos there, and I'm still, but I just uploaded them like 2 or 3 days ago, and I'm still waiting for my students to check and see if they can access them, because I myself have problems accessing Panopto using the app. I do not know why. With my browser is okay, but with my app on either on my Mac or on my iPhone, I cannot access my Panopto account. So I think Zoom would be great for, especially because you can record your like your lectures. So for students who can make it during class time, then they can ask questions and it can be a lot more interactive. And for students who cannot make it during class time, especially given my students who are not very motivated, who probably check the videos, you know, a few days or a week before assignment submission date, then they can watch the video when they feel free. So yes, that's my introduction. Hello, everybody.
Cool, so I'll go next. So I'm Carolyn Dingle. I'm a lecturer, senior lecturer at Hong Kong U in the science faculty. So I teach in the biology department in environmental science. I have used both Zoom and Panopto I have no idea what kind of success. I've used Zoom a lot more. I prefer it because I like, even if I can't see the students, when I do my lectures, all of my students, I can't see any of their faces because I'm doing big classes, but I just like knowing that they're there. And I found that, actually, Jason, you really helped me when you posted your first video, because I was thinking about, when I was trying to make these online lectures, I was imagining having to produce like a professional sounding podcast that, you know, was like, that's just what I was picturing in my head, and is really putting me off. And Jason, not to say yours wasn't professional sounding, but it was just a lecture, right? You were just talking to people, and it really helped me overcome that fear of not producing something perfect. So I've done both, yeah, so I've used Panopto. We are using that a lot in our Common Core, the Women in Science class. So the tutors are using it a lot. But I've done live Zoom lectures as well. Basically, for my 4 lectures, I've done everything. So the first one was live. The second one, I just put up PowerPoint and notes, but I've actually gone back now and put up recorded lectures. The third one I did on Zoom. And then the fourth one I've just recorded on Panopto. And I asked some of the students, I had quite a lot of students come to the live Zoom, which I was impressed with, probably more than would have come to class. and I asked them whether they liked it or whether they liked recordings, and I think they like both. They like having the recorded lectures so they can go back to it. So even though I hate doing it, I have tried to overcome that in myself. But I actually prefer using Zoom for most things, like our lab meetings and smaller things I do for our major. I run the environmental science major. We've done on Zoom, and it's better because of the interaction. So yeah, so I'm just trying to get over my fear and learn some more tips for how to use these things.
That sounds like you're way ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
Hello, this is Aaron Magnon Park with my daughter Nina. It's a bedtime in the US, so I'll have to sign off soon. I'm in the University of Hong Kong, Department of Comparative Literature. With Gina, I've been able to do a MOOC now for its 8th run, along with Stacy. I think with that MOOC experience, the Zoom has been very easy to use. I've had a chance to give a long distance guest lecture at Cal State Northridge about 2 weeks ago. It's the first time using Zoom in that format with PowerPoint slides. The one mishap was that I couldn't play my one film clip from my side effectively. So all I did was send the URL to a YouTube link, the time codes, and that took care of the problem.
Okay, thanks, Aaron. Yeah. Who's next?
We can go. Hi, I know a lot of you. Hi, Alvin. Hi, Stacy. Actually, Jason and I met in 2012 at HKU when I was a visiting student there for a year. And so I'm Clara Iwasaki. This is my husband, Evan Nicole Johnson. We both teach at the University of Alberta in Canada. And so our university just will move to online or remote teaching on Tuesday. So we're basically, we got, I think, like 48 hours notice. And so I think we're just wanting to see what we are getting into and maybe learn from you guys. I don't want to speak for you. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I don't know anything about the program that we're using right now, so that's where I am. One class I teach has 77 people in it, and the other one has 30, so I guess those are the class sizes I'm dealing with. And I'm just trying to decide if doing something like this would be like feasible for the big class, or if I might keep it just for smaller, like office hour type meetings with people.
What program are they recommending in Alberta?
Which one? They did not, we don't actually have, I think, a license for Zoom. So I think they are recommending Google Hangouts, I think is the one that they're recommending for us. And then they're also recommending maybe just recording your lecture in PowerPoint, which I hear is not that good. And I think we have like what's sort of like our classroom platform, like eClass platform. There's apparently a function, which I have never used before, that they say you can record your lecture directly into that. We haven't tried that yet. I think that's going to be on my list of things to do tomorrow. But yeah, we're just trying to kind of figure out what our options are here and just kind of understand like what remote teaching is going to look like. Yeah, and so it seems like a lot of you guys have sort of been through this. And so, you know, I think we'd like to kind of learn from you guys.
Yeah, if you don't have the professional license for Zoom, there's limitations. So
yeah,
if you do decide to use this program, just know the limitations, like in terms of time especially. You can't go past an hour if you don't have the professional license without paying.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, who's next?
I'm happy to go.
Okay. Oh wait, before the next person. So let's try one of the things. So if you notice, you have an option to raise your hand. If you look on the right-hand side, there's a participant section, okay? So there's two things. You can raise your hand, or you can give I think you can do something else too, I'm not sure. I don't get to see it because I'm the host. When you're not a host and you're a participant, you can raise your hand or you can clap, exactly, right? And then there's also reactions. So you can give a plus reaction, like a thumbs up, that kind of thing. The one thing I can do is,
You can't see it if people do that?
Yes, I cannot raise my hand because I'm a host.
Oh, right.
But I
you
can see
it
your
really
hands up,
good.
right? So right now
I'm
Stacy's got a
clapping for you,
clap.
Jason.
Rowena has a hand up.
I'm
Okay.
clapping for you.
So the hand up is different from the thumbs up and the clapping. The hands up does not go away. Okay. You either I, the host, turns it off, or you bring it down. It's just like raising your hand in class. Whereas the clapping and the thumbs up, that's like clapping for someone or something like that. Okay, so right now,
So that's something that other ones show up on your pictures, but the hands up doesn't.
It shows up on your. I see it. I see. So right now I can lower your hand. So I've lowered your hand. Okay. Yeah. So
I had that before where someone had their hand raised and I couldn't see it.
Okay.
I'm raising my hand. Yeah. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it. I don't know if the host can see it.
Does it come up on the picture or just on the list of participants?
Caroline,
it comes up on the picture.
My hand up?
It comes up on the picture, yeah. So Rowena, I can see your hand, but I can't. But I don't think anyone else can.
Yeah, no.
I'm co-host and I can't see your hand, so only you can see.
So how do you raise the hand? I cannot see any button.
So there should be something that says like participants or chat on your right-hand side of the screen.
Right hand. Okay.
Yeah, and there should be an option to raise your hand. Go ahead, Gina.
Yeah, if you're using an iPad like I am and you're in the app, it'll be under more.
Okay, so Jason, I raised my hand.
Yes, I can see it. I can see your raised hand, Aaron.
Fabulous. Okay.
Yeah. Leipa, were you able to find it?
No, I cannot see it.
Okay. Yeah, it should be on the right hand. Can you type in the chat? Do you have a chat?
Yes, I can see the chat is on, but I don't see any button for hand raising.
On the bottom of the screen, there's an invite, participants, share screen, chat, record reactions. Participants, it will open up a window on the right-hand side.
Okay.
Everybody
that means that I need to show manager. Oh, now I
just raised my hand in the
you see it now? Jason?
Yes, I can see it. Very good. Yeah, I can see your hand. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to lower all hands. Okay, so hands down. All right, so now, Stacy, you have the floor.
I just want to say that I will be so happy to never have to deal with any of this again, but it's been really good for me. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. We all know that. Those of you who don't know me, I am a tech dinosaur and people have been patient with me. My students have been incredibly patient. And here's what I have to say. I think Zoom is way easier than anything. And what I have done is I've sent them handouts beforehand because I want to focus more on their reactions. I'm watching their faces. I do ask them to share screen if they want to. And I understand that there may be some that can't, so I don't require it, but it makes a big difference when I can see faces. And I am amazed. My assertion is that they're not getting much of anything from anybody because when I give them simple handouts and we do these Zoom chats, I'm getting all of this thank you stuff. And so I'm doing, seriously, you know me, I'm doing bare minimum and getting all of this, oh, we appreciated it so much, which makes me think there's not that much going on out there, but maybe I'm wrong. So I started with Jason's guest lecture and watched it being done. And like Caroline, that gave me, confidence to go ahead and do it. So luckily I'm teaching 3 courses, and the history and film course was supplemented for the first 3 weeks by the MOOC, the Hong Kong Cinema MOOC. And I'm incredibly grateful for that because that bought me some time in my bigger class. But I don't teach huge classes, and that makes a difference. So I have 1 seminar class on leadership with 13 students. And that's going quite well because we literally can see and have good discussions. The other 2 courses are bigger, but I have to say what happens is after we do our group chats or our group lectures, where again, they have the handout on their other devices and then they're watching me on Zoom and we're chatting. Then the people that want to stick around for Q&A will stick around longer. And that's when interesting things are happening, I must say. I also think it's going to be I know this is a horrible thing to say, but it's going to be much easier for me to grade this term because I see the students who are participating, who are really into it. And I'm reaching out if I don't hear from them. But I have to say, it's been a revelation. in a lot of ways. So I don't love this. It's not what I'm good at, but I'm learning. So it's my 2 cents.
Okay. Thanks, Stacy. So before we go on, just let me, because we have some new participants. So hello, our new people who just came in. Just to give you a heads up, first off is, one, we're doing introductions right now. Secondly, I am recording this. So if you have any problems with that, send me a private message, you know, and I can stop it. Okay? So another thing I wanted to say is I'll just slip in some advice every once in a while as we're talking. But what Stacy mentioned, I think, is really kind of like, I think the best move is take all the resources you have and find a way to kind of what's the word I would use, like curate your materials for your students. Be like, hey, you know, this is the resource that you have, go ahead, take a look at this. Basically, it's like, just survive. Don't stress yourself. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't record things that you wouldn't have recorded. You know, just like jury rig it together, because you're already doing way more than anybody else. The fact that you are here in the Zoom chat means you're doing more than like 90% already. And your students know that too. So the main thing is get your students comfortable, and also just, I would spend a lot of time working on the, those of you at HKU, we use Moodle, but you probably have some sort of learning platform service. I would say make that into a really easy to navigate page where they can just click, read this, so they always have something to do if they want to be working on the class coursework. I would say that. I would say shorten your syllabus. Figure out what has to stay. Get rid of anything that's extraneous. You're like, oh, I thought I could throw in an extra lesson. Forget it. Okay. Just figure out what's the most important thing about the course this semester that they have to learn. Make sure they learn that. Forget about everything else. And then just, you know, find a way to stay in communication. One thing that I found really helpful in our learning platform, Moodle, is there's an option to ask questions of the students where they fill in a poll, like voting. So I'm like, do you prefer recording? Do you prefer Zoom? Do you prefer this? Do you prefer that? Now, their preferences are going to be all over the place, and they're definitely going to prefer the one that they have to do the least. At the same time, you are including them in the project of how you're going to design the course for the rest of the semester, which means you're automatically going to get some sort of buy-in. So I highly recommend that you start communicating with them immediately. Some things I think are easier, some things are harder. Like you could, if you're really good at communicating through email or forums, then do that. I've been doing a lot of that. If you prefer to do, you know, one-time message at a time, once a week, do that. Just kind of like, imagine you're trying to stay connected with these people. What's the best way for you to do that? And then just focus on the main things. And then one more thing is, I think, try to figure out what you're best at when it comes to teaching. Are you better as like I read this online, right? But are you a better sage on the stage, where you kind of give lectures, come across as like, you know, very kind of, I don't know, authoritative maybe? Or are you better as the guide on the side, where you are like, okay, we're going to work together to get you to the end of the semester, whatever we have to do. So I've done both. Whereas the beginning I did lectures and then I burned out. It's like, this is too much. I can't do this anymore. So now I'm like, okay, I'm thinking of myself as a tutor or as like a test prep kind of guide, where it's like, okay, you have assignments. Let's get you to the assignment and get it done, so that you can say that you've completed all the coursework for this class. I'm not your antagonist. I'm your tutor. We're going to work together to get this together and done. Okay, so those are my initial tips that I would give. And then as we talk more, yeah, I think that helps with the motivation. With the motivation, get them excited to use new software. Get them excited to be like, oh, this is a new opportunity to try something different. You know, like maybe let's see how this online learning can work. You know, make it kind of fun for them, I guess. Let's see, and I'll go over some other stuff later, but let's keep going. Okay, so let's, who hasn't spoken, please raise your hand, and then you can choose next. Okay, so let's see. Look, so when I say raise your hand, I mean raise your hand digitally. Okay, so all right. So Amy, hi Amy. So why don't you go ahead? All right, everyone. Hi Amy.
Hi, this is Amy Lewis. I'm calling from Washington, D.C., so it's rather late here, so I don't have my camera on. I was at the University of Hong Kong from 2011 to 2014. Now I teach at George Mason University in Virginia, and given the current environment, we are switching from in-person classes to online classes as of the week ahead. So I'm trying to quickly get up to speed. I think one of the advantages is that for the 3 classes I'm teaching this semester, I've already been meeting in person with students once a week for the first 7 weeks of the course. But it is going to take quite an adjustment or switch to change to a new format. As a university, we support Blackboard platforms, so Blackboard Collaborate. I do have a paid Zoom account that I use for other things that I might also incorporate into the courses. So just trying to get some ideas and hear about lessons learned.
Okay, great. All right, thanks, Amy. Okay, who would like to speak next? Please raise your hand digitally. So, yeah. So those of you who just joined, one, I'm recording. So if you're not comfortable with that, send me a private message and I can stop. And then 2 is there's an option to raise your hand digitally, just so you can learn new technology stuff. So it should be in the bottom right next to more over the chat. So if you want to try raising your hand, and then I will pick on you, or I'll choose you, and then you can speak next. Okay, so Valerie just clapped. We got some clapping. But can you do the hand raise? See if you, okay, all right, Petula.
Yeah.
Okay, Petula has raised her hand. Okay,
Hi.
so hi, Petula.
Can you see me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, everyone. Hi, it's Petula from University of Hong Kong. My colleagues are here. Thank you, Jason, for organizing this. And your tips have been very helpful. I think especially what you just said now was very helpful. That I'm a tutor, and, you know, going through things. And of course, I'm very flattered to know that we have done more than 90% of our colleagues. That's so comforting. Actually, I have enjoyed Zoom teaching very much. I think it's a new experience for me. I'm so glad that I'm still able to learn new things, new experiences, and it's I'm enjoying it because there's one thing really good about Zoom teaching, that I only have to take care of people whose cameras, who I can see the faces. And then I also take care of students with a participant list. I can also see some people that I can kind of, you know, feel comfortable to relate to if they raise their hands. So I attend to people who are willing to respond. And I don't see people who do not want to respond. So it's very different from classroom teaching, where I have to take care of everyone. I stood there, I take care of everyone. I try to ensure everybody is on the same page. And I do role play, I do so many things. I feel like I have, you know, to perform all the time. But with this Zoom teaching, I focus so much on content. I give them, during the preparation, it's a lot more preparation, my experience. I give them all the resources that I myself have used in order to come up with that PowerPoint. So I have so many things for them, and I don't want to be, you know, like before we would say, it's your responsibility to find out all these stuff. Now I have given up that idea. I'm not that arrogant anymore. I will just tell them, this is where my ideas come from. So feel free to use them. So I think that's Jason's idea. And because I can focus so much on the content, I feel like it's the first time that my lectures are so organized and so substantial. Because for in the old days, I perform too much. I care too much about the response. I want them to be engaged. Now, it's their responsibility to be more engaging or less engaging. I don't care that much. And I can't, because some of them just are not willing to show up, or I don't know where they are, and they're not willing to speak up. That's fine. I catch them in tutorials where I see them in small groups. That's the point where I will, you know, punch them. But during lecture, I feel like, oh my God, I have taught this course for so many years. It's like it's the first time that I know what I'm saying in a more coherent way. Because it's so easy to cheat, it's so easy to deceive the students when you have face-to-face interaction. You know, I can say, Alvin, what's your view? And then I take time to think, right? And now I do that when I am really at risk. But for most of the time, when in the preparation of the PowerPoint, I think really hard about the transitions, why this part is related to that part. And as Jason said, I ask myself every time, is this really necessary? Why is this part so important to the course? And I would tell students every time, I don't know why I do this, I said, if I don't see you again, I don't know, things are happening so fast. If we don't meet again, this is what you have already learned. And it is so much, it is a lot. It is very useful to your life. It should have already changed your life. So that's how I approach my course now. I feel like, yeah, this is once in a lifetime experience for us, at least. I don't know what will happen tomorrow. And so I just focus a lot on what is that something that I really want them to learn. And some of the things are very, very difficult. And I told them it's so difficult, so challenging, but I just want them to understand this. So it's very, it's a humbling experience, but it's also very rewarding experience. It's like I'm a new teacher.
Yeah, good way to put it. Yeah, it's like being a new teacher. Yeah. So thanks for that, Petula. I just wanted to emphasize two things that you said is, I think one thing about online teaching is it's much more obvious for those of us, all of us, right, who have imposter syndrome, right? It's much more obvious. It's not about you. It's not about you. If your students are not participating, it's not about you. It's coronavirus, okay? It's new technology. It's all this other stuff, right? So don't it's hard not to, but try not to. I think it's easier to understand that it's really not about you anymore, like in this kind of situation. Another thing that I think is quite clear from what Petula just said is it really does take a lot more time, especially if you are doing as good of a job as sounds like Professor Ho is doing, because you have a compressed time frame to get everything in, and you don't have that kind of a Socratic opportunity to check in with the student constantly. You can do it in Zoom, but when you're doing a video lecture, it's not as easy. So it does take more time, and it's much scarier too, I think, because you see yourself, you're watching yourself being recorded and that kind of thing. So I would say now that I've gone both routes where I've done recorded lectures and now I'm also doing Zoom, and I would say doing Zoom may be really the easier route, really, because you're talking with your students, you're checking in with them, making sure it's like, did you do the reading? How did it go? What do you think? And you can just teach that way. But if you do want to do recorded lectures, it's a growth opportunity. If you really want to develop your lecturing skills, your ability to kind of like record, hear yourself, and think about the type of lecturing that you're doing, it's a good opportunity to grow if you want to do that. Okay. All right, Petula, did you have something else you wanted to say?
I think I can still engage the students. Those who are willing to switch on the camera, they are my collaborators. I always check with them. And then they are the one who give the best feedback because they said, I feel like you are only teaching me. It's a kind of intimacy. They feel like, oh my God, I feel so close to you. I can talk to you. You immediately, it's just you and me. So I think for the really motivated students, they give the very good feedback. But I worry every week. I worry so much about those who don't turn up, those who never talk. I don't know where they are. I'm so glad I don't have to take care of them. But during the class, but I worry a lot about them.
So just to build on that, I would say that with online teaching, there's a very wide range of effectiveness. I think that I've had some students, because I'm doing like a dissertation seminar, where they've just used this as an opportunity to just really write really good dissertations. So their buy-in is just like 100%, and they're using the online to the best possibilities. And then in the undergrad, and I have many undergrads who are like posting in forums and just really into it. But I have some who I've never heard from them, and I don't think I will hear from them. And they will probably choose pass-fail or something and just mail it in. And I understand. It's not about me. Right? This is a crazy situation. So I think we have to be okay with that, but also acknowledge that the range is really wide. Student evaluation is going to be really wide as well. So just the students who want to and have the privilege of engaging, give them what they need. That's the way I would see it. Okay, Val, you raised your hand a couple times visually, but feel free to speak. But also we're doing this thing where we're trying to do the digital hand raising. So if you,
I can't find the button. I'm sorry.
that's okay. Yeah, yeah. It's
Is it
part of
under reactions?
no. So reactions allows you to do things like thumbs up and clap,
Right,
like
right.
that.
Where's the
But
hand
then
raising?
the hand raising should be on the more on the right next to the chat.
More next to chat.
Yeah, you can look for it later. Yeah.
Yeah,
But if
look
you
for
want,
it. Okay, I can't find it. I just want to say, so you guys in Hong Kong have been doing this for a while, and I can tell by the looks on your faces that you are so much calmer than we are right now. It's really, those of us in the US, right? Am I telling the truth? It's just like hitting the fan in a really amazing way right now. It's so horrible because we have a super incompetent government as well as people who are idiotic and they won't wear masks. So, but anyway, I just want to just say that and get that off my chest. I do want to say that we went online last week and I have met with my students, both of my classes just once, and most of them have been just to kind of reassure the students what's going on. I did adapt an assignment just now so that the student, it was a group assignment and they were supposed to go out and document a location. Now I've adapted it so they don't have to have any kind of meeting in person with anybody. Like they can do it from their house if they need to. And I think Jason, what Jason said about just streamlining your syllabus is so important at this point. Just focus on what your learning outcomes are and what you want people to learn, as opposed to like, you must hit all of these points on your syllabus. It's not that critical, I think, as long as they have some kind of outcome where they've absorbed whatever the most important information is of your class, and that could be very broadly defined,
absolutely.
And I'm looking to you folks in Asia who have been doing this for a while, and I'm happy that I have been following you because I've seen that it's possible to do, and that makes me very encouraged amidst all the chaos.
Okay. All right. We have a hand raised from Tiffany. Go ahead, Tiff.
Hey guys, I guess I'm kind of in Valerie's shoes as well. I teach in the US right now and I teach elementary, but I know a lot of schools in Asia have already made that transition. So, and I have cousins and family who are still in school. So I thank you for letting me sit in on this meeting. So I just kind of want to know, for you guys who are in Hong Kong, who've maybe heard from, other family members and other elementary or secondary schools, what that transition has been like for younger students. I'm not freaking out, but I know a lot of my colleagues are. I think I'm sensing a lot of, there's a lot of collaboration that needs to happen. So I'm really grateful that the teacher community is so strong. So whatever I kind of pick up from today, I'd love to share with my colleagues.
All right, thanks, Dave. Yeah, I would say one thing with kids is, I don't know, maybe not just kids, but all of us, right? Make the technology fun. I would say that that's one thing that you really want to make. It's like, this is a way to learn, but it's also a way to learn this new medium as well. And it can be a fun thing. Okay. All right, Lei Hua and then Caroline. Okay, go ahead, Lei Hua.
Hi, I'm Lei Hua. I teach at Kalamazoo College in Michigan. And we received the notice the day before yesterday that we were shifted to the online teaching. So I was at a loss, but now I feel that I'm growing much calmer in the past half an hour. I feel I have some idea how things would work out. Yeah. So I'm less scared.
Good.
And I have one particular question. So with Zoom, is there a way to do office hours? If I hold the regular office hours, students may drop by, but I also may work on my own things. So does the Zoom have alarming system? So if a student come in, I will get ready, be in there.
Okay. All right, great question. Okay, so Caroline and then Clara are gonna come, but I'm just gonna answer your question real fast. So yeah, you can just have Zoom on and then you tell your students, come to this meeting at this time from these 2 hours and you can join in. And then what will happen is, what you can do is there's this option, and when you're the host, under the more, you have options to mute all, unmute all, and then more. And under more, there's one that says play, enter, or exit chime. So I've turned that on now. So now every time someone comes in or leaves, we're gonna get a chime. So if someone wants to leave and come back, we'll get the chime, okay? All right, Caroline, you're up.
I was just gonna make a quick comment to Tiffany about the schools. My son has been doing online learning He's in the equivalent of grade 1, so year 2 here in Hong Kong. And I find the same things work, like what Jason said about making it fun, but I think our school's been doing a good job. They've been posting lots of videos. They still do like their assembly, and the teachers are kind of into it, it seems like. But something they've done recently, I mean, I have to admit, we've done almost none of the online learning. It's possible for me to get him to sit down and do it. He just doesn't want to. But the one thing he has really engaged with is now twice a week, they meet like they don't use Zoom, but it's something like that. And they meet in person with small groups of the kids. So he gets to see some of his classmates. The teacher like reads them a story, and they do like a little bit of phonics or something. And that's been really successful, I think. So I think if there's some way to incorporate some kind of check-in, you know, probably not every day, but a couple of days a week where they see you in person and kind of remember there's school out there. I think that's quite successful.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Caroline. Clara, do you have something to add? Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question, especially for those of you that have been doing this for a while. One idea that I've been kind of thinking about doing is our sort of classroom website platform, which we call eClass. It's very similar to Moodle, I think. Has like a option for a time activated forum where the students can kind of like interact. And so, you know, obviously I've mostly just done everything in person, but I was thinking of maybe trying to integrate that into my classes. I think are like 23 and 20 this term. So they're fairly small and the students like know each other fairly well. So I guess I'm just curious if you guys have a similar function or have been able to kind of use forums, and if you've had any issues with moderation, you know, or any kind of concerns like that, just because I'm having to think about this for the first time. So I'd sort of be curious.
Okay, if it's okay with everyone, I'm gonna dive into that question real fast. Is that cool?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen. So this is our Moodle platform, okay? So I'm gonna share it right now. Another thing you can do is there's an option when you click on share screen, there's options for things like whiteboard. You can choose any window you want, and also you can share computer sound. So let's say you're playing a clip. If you click share computer sound, then the sound from that clip will also come up too. So I'll do that after I show you this. So first I'm gonna go to this is called Moodle. This is our learning page, right? So I'm gonna click on this one, decolonizing gender. And this is one I spent a lot of work on. Okay, so is everyone okay to see the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, great. All right, so what I did right from the beginning was after I started recording video lectures, I made a video lecture explaining everything that's going on in the course, like how we're gonna run everything. And using a lot of share screens so they see things. So the screen that you're seeing, they also saw something similar, right? And then I would put a forum underneath each video. So for example, right, if you look at this video here, Decolonizing the Classroom, I have the video lecture, I have the PowerPoint slides, and then I have the forum. And I gave people the option. I said, if you want to participate by, you know, talking in Zoom, you can do that. If you want to participate by, you know, making video or something, or you can participate in the forums. So then in the forums, I said, okay, everyone needs to post, you know, or answer set questions. I actually got this idea from the HKU MOOC that Gina and Aaron and Stacy do, where every week after their lecture, they have a forum specifically for that week, so that it's kind of, and then I'll ask questions and get kind of answers and that kind of thing. So I'm going to scroll through this because you're not supposed to be able to read this, right? But yeah, so you get the idea, okay? And then another thing is I use polls. So here I have one that's poll is, what mode of assessment would best demonstrate your achievement of the course learning objectives? So I'm like, okay, you know, what are your options, right? And then I gave them the option to choose between these different options. And then after I had that, then everyone gets to see, you know, the responses, like how many responses. However, I make it so that only I see the names, so they just see the numbers. So most people wanted to write one short essay, one long essay, etc. So I just kind of like, you don't have to go to that level. I just did that for this course. That was just my plan. Okay, let's see. Yeah, and then moderation with the forums. This is hard. I recommend that you do an auto subscription so that every time someone posts in the forums, you get an email. Now, what I try to do is at the beginning, I set sort of rules about inclusivity. Like, you know, before you speak, please say, hello, my name is, introduce yourself, you know, and then I set rules like, critique the argument, don't critique the person. No using identifiers, that kind of thing, as in like, don't say all men do this, all women do this, no generalizations, provide evidence for backup. There's a lot of online kind of guides for how to speak in forums or to write in forums. So I posted those for the students. So here's an example. Right here. So I got this from Virginia, University of Virginia. They have an edX forum and they have a discussion forum for etiquette guidelines. So I'm going to paste this right now into our talk in our Hangout. So hold on, let me go to the chat. I don't know where the chat is. Okay, I'll put it up. I'll put it up in a bit. Okay, but yeah, and then that has and I ask for things like, please introduce yourself, one thread per nominated topic, be specific, and then yeah, and I do have to moderate, I do. But the thing is, if they're talking, let them talk. If there's little talk, be like encourage, and then every once in a while when they're talking about something, my go-to favorite answer to anything is, great question. That would be a great essay topic. That would be a great essay topic. I really think that would be great for your essay topic. And then sometimes they want to talk more about that. So I kind of give them that chance to do so. Okay. All right. Yeah. Thanks. Okay. Thanks, Tiff. Yeah. Tiff has it. All right. Okay. So I'm going to stop this share. Before I stop the share for our Moodle page, does any other questions about this? So one more thing is, see these videos? I send it to them in an email, but I also embed it into Moodle. And mine are YouTube links. So I upload all my videos onto YouTube, and then this video will be uploaded to YouTube as well. I find it very easy. And also it doesn't have to be inside of the Moodle system. So that's one thing about Panopto versus doing a recording separately. I actually think recording in Zoom is a really good idea, and then uploading to YouTube. And then if you have a YouTube link, then you can embed it in the Moodle system, or you can just email it out to the students who have trouble accessing the system, because some students, maybe it's easier to get to YouTube or easier to get to Vimeo or something like that. So that's something you'll have to ask your students about, right? Other than that, I try to make it so that they have lots of things to do in the page, if that makes any sense. It's like, answer this question, participate in the forum, look at the lecture PowerPoint, look at the reading, that kind of thing. And then one other good thing that's kind of Big Brother-ish, that's kind of scary too, is at the end of the semester, I told them, I can look at every single student, and like, let's say I'll look at myself, right? And I can see the full report, a complete report of everything they've done in the course. So it's very Big Brother-ish, right?
Yeah, we can do that.
Cool. So complete report, and be like, okay, so Jason was in this forum, he did this, he posted here. Yeah, so you get a lot of data about how they participated. So Jason answered this choice, Jason answered these questions. He actually clicked on the reading. I don't know if he read it, but he clicked on the reading, this kind of thing. So, and then all your assignments can be uploaded and downloaded in the system. So I basically, at the end of the semester, I intend to just look at everyone's complete report and compare the level of participation and let that be it. But I told the students beforehand that this is what I'd be doing. So if they want to, they can go through and click everything, right? But also have a timestamp too, so I can see that they were clicking on it at the right time, okay? If you want to go that route, okay? I'm just saying that's the kind of level of, stuff you can do. Okay. Yeah. And then it's basically like I turn my Moodle page into an expanded syllabus, where it's like, it's a calendar, but then all the content is in it. You can just click through, kind of like a worksheet, like a workflow. They just keep working throughout this semester. Originally, I had planned on having a video lecture every single time, but forget it. No way am I gonna have a video lecture every single week. Way too much work. Another thing too is, you want your video lecture not to be too long. I would say 20 minutes max. Mine are way too long, okay? But it's kind of like, it's just like writing, like Mark Twain said, right? Like, I apologize for writing you a long letter because I did not have the time to write you a short one. The shorter it is, the briefer, the more concise, the more effort it will take you to do. So it's a trade-off. But right now, I would say that we are in survive mode. So do what you got to do, get through it. Okay. All right, cool. I'm going to stop this share. All right, cool. All right. Shall we take more questions? And
I have one technical question. In the sign up, if you are a free account, Zoom say that it limits to 40 minutes. But then if you sign up through the institution that has license, there's no limit. Just now, because I did it really quickly, I downloaded. I used my HKU email, but I think mine was still. I didn't go through the license route. I think so, but the meeting obviously went beyond 40 minutes. Is it because the host has the license? So, okay.
Yes.
License.
Yeah,
okay.
Everything runs through the host. So you don't have to worry about it. If you're the host and people are signing on from different accounts, it doesn't matter. It's the host that determines the length of the meeting and everything else. So don't worry.
So we've got a question going on in the chat. And you know, chat is funny, like you can send people private messages. So guaranteed your students are sending each other private notes and that kind of thing. And that's okay, right? So we got a question about ownership of material. So Stacy said, can't you just upload the video clip directly to Moodle? I understand that once material is on YouTube, it is no longer ours, but it was just Panopto marketing rhetoric. Okay, so there was a meeting about a month ago with the chancellor of the university, along with Ian Holliday, who is our VP of Teaching and Learning. And I asked a question, and they didn't answer me till later, but who owns the lecture? Who owns the copyright to it, right? Because I'm posting on YouTube. And basically what Professor Holliday said is it's 50-50, it's split. You own it and the university owns it. And that's all he said, okay? So I don't know, but right now I have not gotten any pushback. And I would assume that, you know, like if I talk, you know, and I post it, it should be all right, you know. And I'm not making any money from it. I'll put it like that, right? The idea is just to share as much knowledge as possible. Okay. Any other questions about that? Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Other questions? One advice? Practical advice? Yeah.
Question about the chat groups. Is there a way to save them? Because I had people ask questions and like now there's links and things. So is there some way to record that for after?
Yeah. Okay. So there will be a chat transcript as well. So I pressed record, right? So the chat transcript will be available at the end as well as the video recording and the sound recording.
Does it have to be if you record the whole lecture? Or can you do the chat separately?
The chat is already separate. It's already separate. So they'll just give you a transcript. It'll be just a text file. Okay.
But sorry, I guess my question is, can you get that chat transcript without recording the whole conversation?
I don't know, actually. I don't know. I don't think so. But you may have to try it out. The only time I've seen a chat transcript is when I was recording it as well. But then I guess I've tried to record every time. I don't know. Gina, do you have any insight on this?
No, not really. Yeah, I think you can, but you record separately.
Okay. Yeah. Other questions? Okay. Do you all want to try something else? We can try I think there's like breakout sessions, or I can show you other sharing options, or does anyone want to try to share their screen or see what a PowerPoint would look like and that kind of thing? Basically, like I said, again, this is experiential. So whatever you want to try with the software, we can go for it.
Rowena, how did you just change your background?
How did you end up in Thailand?
Rowena, I think you're muted. I think you want to unmute. Unmute. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I just unmuted you. I will unmute you again. Okay. I'm not touching it. You go ahead. Unmute yourself. Okay, good.
Hello, you can hear me, right?
Yes, we can.
On the bottom left-hand corner, you see stop video right next to mute.
Yeah.
Right next to mute, and then you go to choose virtual background.
Oh,
and I pick Thailand or Hawaii.
Yeah, I like it. I love my outer space. I always choose outer space.
Okay.
Just along that lines, there's also a thing you can click on there that does touch-ups on your face.
Yeah, that never helps me much.
No, I know. I sat there to turn it on and realized it was already on.
Okay, I think Tiff had a question about what do you use as a whiteboard. Okay, so on when you click share screen, you have an option to use a whiteboard. Tiff, do you want to try it? Do you want to do it on your screen? Okay, go for it. All right, you're up. So now we're going to look at Tiff's screen. Yeah, cool.
It works.
Yeah, it works.
Yay.
Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. Okay, so yeah, that's what you can use a whiteboard. Another thing you can do too is, and I've done this before, is if I'm using a PowerPoint, let's say for example, so I'll share a screen right now. Hold on, let me open it. Actually, my PowerPoint takes a long time to open. I don't know why that is. So while that's opening, but what you can do is if you have a PowerPoint open, you can type in the PowerPoint. Right. So sometimes when I'm talking, I'll be like, oh, I need to add more stuff. So I'll type into the PowerPoint, or if students ask questions, I'll type it in. And then later on, I'll send them the PowerPoint as a PDF or something like that, the final version or whatever. Okay. Let's see. Those of you who teach, multimedia, maybe one more thing you want to see is like video. So for example, I'll go back to Google Chrome, and now I'm going to share computer sound. So sometimes I'll have like clips, right? So for example, like let's say we watch this clip. So you should all see this. You should also see the video, right?
Yeah.
So you can hear it too?
Yeah.
So,
and having a constructive opposition, is that
so
also
an... So yeah, so, and that will, oh, it's still going. Sorry. Right, and so that will be recorded as well. So those of you who are recording lectures separately using Zoom, that will also be in the recording if you want to play clips or something like that. Okay. All right. Let's see. You can do it. Jason is doing it now. Okay, great. Okay. Other questions about anything? Or do you want to strategize? If you have certain things that you're worried about coming up, maybe we can group think about how to do it. Anything? Anyone?
I recommend trying the chat room. Why don't you put us in some chat rooms and we can just chat a little bit.
Okay.
Maybe 5 minutes.
Okay. Sorry. Gina, can you teach me how to do that?
Yeah, okay. I think you go to, let's see here. Where's chat room? Meeting room. Let's see here.
Yeah, I know there's breakouts. I just
breakout room. Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah,
I've never done.
I think it's under meeting settings.
Meeting settings. Okay.
Is it under there?
I am looking for it. Anyone else tried this before?
I did it in another meeting, but I wasn't the one in charge of the meeting. So.
I still can't raise my hand. I still don't have my hand.
I can't either. I don't know where my hand raising is. Where's meeting settings?
I think only Jason will have it. Like I thought maybe as a co-host I might have it. Only the host should have it.
Yeah.
Oh, can you show us how to switch hosts, Jason?
Ooh, that I don't know. Let me see. I don't know if I can switch hosts.
You can, because I know people have done it, but I'm looking too. I'll look too.
Reclaim host. What does that mean? I am the host now.
Okay. Yeah, you're definitely the host.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see if I can.
Do you see the breakout rooms under there, or under participants maybe?
Yeah, manage participants, under participants. Participants can chat with everyone. No. Oh, there's an option to save chat in here, Caroline. Just letting you know. So yeah.
I just found raised hand.
Okay, great.
Sorry, Stacy. You have to go click on participants at the bottom, and then you'll get another menu, and then you'll see it.
So I see participants, and then you said there's...
Click it a couple times. Click participants twice.
I'm so happy.
Yay.
So happy.
Yay. Hey, Jason, where did you find the save chat? Oh, is it under the chat link?
Okay, so at the bottom of chat, where you know how there's a place where you can type chat, and there's a button that says file. To the right of that, there's an ellipsis. You click on the ellipsis, there's something that says save chat.
Yeah, that's cool.
You know, it might be because I'm using a Mac that I don't see the breakout rooms, but I know that that's possible.
Something to search for.
Yeah, something to search
I know
for.
it's possible because I know people have done it also.
Yeah.
I've never done it.
Yeah, I've participated. It's really cool. So Yeah, we need to work on doing that.
Okay, Gina, you are now the host. I have changed you to the host.
Ooh, okay.
So
now
maybe you
let me see if I
can put us into
find
breakout
that
rooms.
breakout room now.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe put us
You
into a
keep
breakout room.
talking and I'll look,
Okay.
I'll be searching.
Okay, cool. Good times. Does anyone else have other questions?
I just sent a message to my friend too who does the chat room, so I'll see if he gets back to us.
Okay. All right. So while we're doing this, while Gina's waiting to figure out the chat room, yeah, go ahead, Rowena. Did you have something to say?
I'd like just to see how to share. I'm going to share screen right now.
Yeah, go for it.
To show you the PowerPoint presentation that I've prepared. I
Okay,
just like
sure.
to see how it works.
Sure.
Okay.
All looks good.
Can you see the slides?
Yeah.
That's a very nice slide.
And then I'm going to try to show you the animations. Working?
Yeah, go for it.
Everything working? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it looks great.
I am going to stop the sharing.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so students can also do presentations, right? They can share their screen and that kind of thing. Yeah. So now I can raise my hand too, because I'm no longer the host.
Yeah, I have to lower my hand.
Yeah, I see Rowena's hand still.
Lowered, yeah?
Yeah.
Lowered.
Yeah, you're lowered now. You're fine now.
Yeah.
And I still can't find the groups.
My friend just typed me back. He said you have to set it up in the settings first.
Yeah.
And then when you open Zoom, it's one of the options.
Okay.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah.
We didn't set it up at the beginning.
We
That's
didn't set it up
why.
at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the problem.
Okay. Okay.
So no breakout rooms for us today.
Yeah, sorry about that. I should have figured it out. Yeah. Okay. Other questions? Anything you'd like to address? You know, and and anytime you want, you know, feel free to send me a message asking me any questions about anything. You know, you want to help with.
This isn't related to teaching, but I'm very much enjoying seeing all of your faces and hearing your voices.
I was thinking the same thing.
I feel the same.
Yeah. Okay, Clara, what's up?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just have another question. And I think this is probably pretty basic, especially for the Hong Kong people. But so our situation is that we're moving to remote teaching on Tuesday. And so classes for Monday are suspended. And so obviously, like, you know, for most of us, we had a set time for classes to meet. And I guess I'm just sort of curious, like if I try to go, I guess what we would use for our institution would be probably Google Hangout or something like that. You know, what did you guys do to try to set up a time? Like from hearing some of you guys talk about this, and I certainly imagine that we'll be in a similar situation where like some people won't show up, you know, in part because a lot of our students have jobs, a lot of our, you know, and then obviously the reason we're doing this is because there's an illness that's going around. So like, you know, that may also be an issue. So I guess I'm just sort of curious, like, Jason, I was sort of interested to hear the part where you said, you know, do a poll, give them some sort of like agency within trying to figure out how this is going to work, which I do think I'm going to try to do. But in terms of just the logistics of setting up, like when you meet, you know, I guess also just a related question is, do you have any tips for figuring out how to do this in your house? Which is also going to be new for me. For us. So, you know, any kind of guidance related to those things or any ideas, I'd be sort of interested to hear. Yeah.
Okay. Before I give my reaction, does anyone else want to answer first?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, there's a lot of debate over synchronous versus non-synchronous distance education. So asynchronous, you just record something, the students go to it, you might have a forum, it's always open, and then you respond after a 24-hour period or whatever you want to do, where they watch the lecture whenever they want. The other is synchronous, like we're doing now, where we have a meeting time. I like having a meeting time, so I would assume it would be the same meeting time you would have if you were still in your classroom, so just follow your timetable. And then also, as Jason's been doing with this session right now, is record it so that the students who really can't make their regular session will be able to watch it later, although they can't participate in the same way. I think that if you have just an open forum like we have for the MOOC or that Jason's demonstrated on the Moodle, that it's good, but if students don't have a set time when they're supposed to be doing it, there's a lag in their responses to the other students. They tend to sometimes lose interest, or they end up having, you know, just writing a little mini paper rather than having a discussion. So the forum is more like that. You know, if you want them to answer a question that's kind of maybe maybe like a pre-test or a warm-up for some other kind of paper they're going to write, it's a great thing. And then you can respond to it, you know, whenever you want to respond to it, a week later or whenever you see the postings. But if you want a discussion with the students, if you don't have a set time, they tend not to do well with that. That's my own personal experience.
Yeah, with the forums, a lot of the students voted for forums, right, as expected. And I told them, okay, that's fine. Then you must participate in the forum before the end of next week or something like that. And I also told them, if that's your participation, then you must engage or ask a question. And it depends on the level. Like my master's students, I expect everything. But the undergrad students are like, okay, you must participate in 3 of the forums. So at least 3 weeks out of the whatever, you need to participate and engage and ask a question or answer a question, that kind of thing. So if you say like you need to do it by this time. Another thing is, I try not to be like passive aggressive about it, but it's hard not to be like on the internet. But like if someone's like pasting a wall, I'll be like, hey, so this is a discussion and it's very hard for people to engage when they just see a wall of text. So let's work on being more concise. These kinds of things, you know, and then they're modeling it based on the way that I answer questions in the forum, right? So I'll be like, hey, great answer, great question, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so, all right. So yeah, just try your best to model the type of answer and response that you want. And as always, that would be a great question to answer for your midterm essay. What a great essay topic. I get to that over and over again. So one more thing that Clara asked, and it's not a small thing, is how to set up your home so that you feel comfortable. So I actually moved. I used to have my table outside, and then Miles, our son, would just like come hang out with me all the time while I was working. No longer can. So I moved my desk inside the room, and then I had like a white closet behind me. And so that's just the kind of thing. We did get the School of Humanities gave us a mic. So it's kind of cool, this mic right here. Yeah, it's pretty fun. But it's not necessary. It's not necessary. People can hear you just fine, right? We're not having trouble hearing each other. But it's just kind of, it's another toy, right, to play with. One recommendation I would have is have your camera high so that it's shooting down. Okay? Shooting down is good. Shooting up, not so good. Okay?
Yeah.
So
that's my
down.
problem now, because mine's shooting up, so I don't look so good today.
Yeah. So what I'm using an iMac, so it's a big screen. I noticed Petula, you're off to the side, so I'm guessing you're double screening. So maybe your camera is on the right. That's okay. That's okay. But just figure out where your face is best on the screen to talk with your students, and then think about like that. Lighting wise, you want your lighting to come from the top. So I have a lamp that I've kind of set up so that it kind of shines down on me, right? Like that. Yeah. So basically just think about things like lighting. You don't want too much light in the back, right? Because then you get kind of exposure, you know, that kind of thing. And Val raised her hand, so maybe Val, you can speak next. And as the resident filmmaker, Val, maybe you can give us some tips too.
All of those tips are excellent. I have nothing to add. I did want to circle back a little bit to when you're talking about if you were going to do synchronous or asynchronous. So we have also just been thrown into this really rapidly, as some people, it sounds like Clara and a few other people are learning on the fly. Yeah. And I just am kind of going with the flow. Yeah. I feel like the students, when I talk to them in person, it's like, right now, since we're just starting, we're just at this point like reassuring them that things will be fine and not overloading them with stuff. But then I also did assign a film to watch, like asynchronously, and then did the forum thing, you know, where they had to answer one question. But I do find that you have to be really specific with your questions, like very open-ended questions, as opposed to just like yes or no questions, obviously, right? So it's just like writing any kind of prompt. Yeah. And then I think Gina mentioned this too, that if you have people have to respond to someone else's question, that's good. But again, I mean, here in the SF in the States, it's so chaotic right now that I just feel like if they can't do it, I'm cutting people a lot of slack.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's okay. It's okay.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, and that includes myself.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And in fact, Gina at one point sent an article to us about what you should do. You should not do anything. And then she elaborated what it meant to not do anything. Do you remember what that was? It was.
I think Jason sent that. I don't agree with that article.
No, but it should make you feel a little bit better. Just the whole and when people are in crisis mode, they're not ready to do anything, so walk
exactly. I agree with that part of the article. Is like, that's the article that says, please do online teaching badly. And Jason said that. And, I read through it and I sort of get the point. And I agree with that. The basic point is that, we're cobbling all this together at the last minute. Even people who've been doing online teaching. I mean, I do a very different kind of online teaching than I have to do now for my lectures that I have to do for other people's classes. So it's a very different kind of thing than for the MOOC, for example. And I think even people who do distance learning, that I've seen so many different models of distance learning that whatever we do now, something is better than nothing for the students.
Absolutely.
And I think as long as they've got, I really liked what Jason said about kind of prepping them to do their assignments. I was just saying that I think Jason made a really good point there. Is like, just think about what can I do to prep them to do whatever assignments they've got to do. And then I know here that we can do pass-fail for the assignments now. I think that the upper administration here has done a pretty good job. And they did this when we had the protests last fall. So they're just basically doing the same thing. Late drops for anybody who can't handle it. Like if somebody says, geez, I cannot handle online learning, late drop, let them drop, give them the tuition refund, just let them go. I think that that's good. We can't make that decision as teachers, but if your upper admin can do that, that's great. The other good thing is, go immediately to pass-fail. If the students say, gosh, I don't know, I knew that I could handle doing my group assignments and I could handle X, Y, or Z, but that's all done now. The syllabus is completely changed. Now I've got to do X, Y, or Z. I don't know if I can handle it. Let them just do pass-fail. If you can get your upper admin to say that, that's okay. That's also good. But as it is, I think Valerie's 100% right. Just cut them slack. It's like, give them extra time to do everything.
Extensions galore.
I will say one thing though that we had, and this is, I don't know if Aaron's still here, but Aaron had this problem when he was teaching last semester. We had more plagiarism cases than normal. So that's one thing, is you might want to give them a little bit of a, talk before they hand in anything. That, please, we know you're under pressure. I'd rather give you extra time than see you plagiarize. Please, please, please take these guidelines seriously about plagiarism. So
and this is something I learned from I learned this a lot from like Stacy's course when I took the MA program before, when she was my instructor, as well as Gina. It's give them assignments that they can do like individual reflection. So it's like, what is your experience of living and taking classes at this time in this place? And how does that relate to the course content in one way or another? That's just a really easy way for them to get started thinking about the way that the course relates to overall what's going on in life. And I think I'm quite lucky that my course, if anyone wants to talk about coronavirus in my course, it's going to apply in some way. Okay. Yes, exactly. It's gendered. Yes, it's globalized. Yes, it's, it has to do with entertainment and racist stereotypes, et cetera, or research. So just give them an opportunity to link their present experience to what's going on in the course. If anything, that'll be it could be an even better learning experience if you think about it experientially. Okay, so we've got 2 hands up. First Clara and then Aaron. Okay, so go ahead, Clara.
I just had a sort of follow up, both to this and then a little bit to the forum question earlier. I don't really know how to say this in a diplomatic way. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the software Top Hat.
Yes.
Yeah. So I had a colleague who tried this at a different university and had some really interesting responses. This is like, for those of you that aren't aware, it's like a forum where you just post anonymously. And at least for my colleague, this revealed sort of, I think, the like pop culture id of.
You don't want anonymous posting.
No anonymous.
Yeah. Okay.
No, we're in class. We're not anonymous here.
Yeah. I mean, they're very like entrepreneurial in calling me a lot, but I mean, so my question is somewhat related to this kind of, which is just like, have you had issues with moderating that aren't just like either people presenting paragraphs or something perhaps more like you suck, like that kind of thing, where you kind of, and how do you, and speaking of various implication, sort of real world implications, I imagine this is sort of like an issue in which teacher-student interaction can be kind of gendered. So I'm just sort of curious to hear that, from anybody, if you've had sort of experiences and like how to deal with that.
So if it's okay, I'll just speak to that first. I would say that the online world is even more gendered than the classroom. In a strange way. I don't know how it happened. I have theories. I always do have theories, but yes, no, it's more gendered. And also, especially in Hong Kong, because forums are written in English, right? There's a huge native English kind of component too that kind of goes into it. And then because of the forums, and I teach gender studies, right? And so I was teaching like a theoretical gender studies course on decolonizing gender. So you get people with agendas who are coming to the forums like, hey, I want to talk about, whether or not transgender, is really a woman or something like that. This kind of, they have like an agenda where they want to kind of advance. And I had to be ready. This was tough. This took up a lot of emotional labor to moderate forums. But, I think it made me smarter. It taught me how to nip things in the bud. But certain things, right? Like you can just say like, hey, no one's really, I try to be as honest as I could with the students. Like, this would be a good paper topic. However, you can't just throw out an opening statement to a long debate you intend to have on this particular topic. No one's going to respond to you. And that's just part of our online, etiquette. And so I kind of tell them too, is like, this is an opportunity not just to present your ideas, but to get good at using forums and communicating with people in a respectful way, because forums will be one of the major forms of discourse in the future, where everyone's going to be having these kinds of debates in that world. So getting good at that is a really good idea. And so I emphasize etiquette, respect, kind of behavior, and how to get good at it. So I kind of make them understand that the point is not to figure out the truth of the topic. The point is to get good at talking online and using forums, so that, because that's the major training that I want them to have. Not necessarily this is the right answer, this is the wrong answer, but how do we get to the right answer using forums, and how do we discuss amicably? So if they're going to learn one thing from me this semester, it's how to be a good online colleague, I guess. Yeah. I hope that helps. Okay, anyone else want to answer Clara's question before we jump to Aaron and then Caroline about moderating forums? So another thing about moderating forums is what I'm doing right now too, is always review what the person said in the forums. So it's like, hey, you did a really good job of explaining X, Y, and Z, and then you go into the critique. And then same with forums, when it comes to discussion on Zoom, Clara just made a really interesting point about how do you deal with moderation in forums. This would be my answer. Does anyone else want to speak to this? So you're always recapping for the students in order that they can engage in it. So there's always a constant review going on. Okay? All right. Okay. Anyone else want to speak to what Claire's talking about with moderating forums? Okay, let's move on to the next. Caroline, you're up.
Oh yeah, actually, I was going to talk about something else, but I had a couple comments on the plagiarism, because we found that really common in the exams, particularly last time. And we talked to all of the students. We brought each one in and asked them about it. And this is not going to be new to anybody, but there seemed to be at least some claim of confusion over our exam was open book, and we did 4 short essays that they basically had like half an hour. We didn't time it that way, but they had half an hour for each question, and we told them that ahead of time. And I just say my co-teacher and I both do a lot about plagiarism. We have whole lectures in our courses devoted to how to avoid plagiarism and this kind of thing, and they get it like from year 1 all the way through. So they get it a lot. And we still had students plagiarizing, which makes, it's not unexpected, I guess. But they seemed confused about the open book and online sources. They kept saying, oh, we thought it was open book, so we could use online sources. And we found there was some confusion about, yes, you can use online sources, but you can't copy and paste them into your essays. And I guess I knew this, but I learned that really that's how students, most of our students at least, write their essays that way. They copy and paste from a source, and then they change the text once it's copied so that it won't get picked up by the Turnitin software. So now we're adding a bit to our plagiarism chat that's also plagiarism. Even if you ever copy and paste into your whatever it is, essay, exam, and then change the text from there, that's still plagiarism. I doubt that will solve the problem, but one thing I thought, the one question that we didn't have plagiarism on was the question that I thought was the worst question. It was kind of the silly question based on, it was an urban ecology course, and we based it on a bird that I study, and I asked them to pretend they were that bird and describe what a day in their life was.
Wow.
I was really regretting
like
the question.
Assignment.
I was like, that's such a dumb question, but actually nobody could plagiarize it because you can't search that on Google. So it made me think that for those kind of online, particularly exams, I guess, thinking really carefully about the question that you ask and designing it in a way that it can't easily be copied and pasted. So maybe spending extra time thinking about that in your exams. So what I was actually going to ask about is I actually used Mentimeter still in my Zoom course, and it was good. Although now I'm not totally sure they can see my screen. I'm not sure if I shared it properly, but I set it up just how I would so Mentimeter, I don't know if everyone's used it, but it's like one of these online poll softwares. So you can post a question and students text in their answer and it comes in. You can make word clouds or bar charts or whatever. And it still worked pretty well. And I thought it was a nice way to engage the students in a similar way that you would in a lecture hall. And then, so I just wanted to share that, but also ask maybe other people have other ideas of how to kind of create that same sort of engagement that you would have other than having the chat room and sort of introducing those kind of activities in online lectures.
Yeah, so with Mentimeter, I have a question about that. Do they need to have like a phone and also a computer? Can they do Mentimeter on the same device? That's something that I would wonder about.
I don't know, actually.
Yeah.
I think that you probably could, because now I could make my Zoom screen smaller so I could do other things while I was on. So I think that they could, but I'm not totally sure, actually.
Yeah, I'm sure that there's definitely going to be a lot of ways to create interaction, but it's still going to be up to whether the students want to be interacting. Yeah. But yeah, Mentimeter is fun. Mentimeter is super fun. Yeah.
That was good. I think I had pretty good participation, and it didn't work very well. I was supposed to ask them 2 different questions that would have been on 2 different slides, but somehow they were on the same. I was asking them about gendered words, so it was just a wash of both. But we were able to still use that because we could pick through both of them and decide which ones had been entered for males or females. And I guess that would be my general advice to people that are trying this for the first time is like, it's okay to make mistakes when you're doing this, right? Even the online, just being human with them, I think they feel like they're on, like you said earlier, Jason, they're kind of on the journey with you, right? Like I'm pretty honest with them, like, I'm new to this.
Yeah.
I was doing one where I was showing a video and I didn't have my chat screen visible. So I'm pointing out things in the video, and finally I looked and saw they couldn't see the video.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Or imagine recording a video and losing it, which I have done. Like 1 hour recording, and like, where'd it go?
Well, I think that's what just happened to me, right?
Yeah.
Going back to the question about how you set up your home. So I was doing a Panopto recording and the internet cut out halfway through. So I haven't checked yet to see whether I've lost the whole thing. But, and I guess the other kind of advice I have about recording lectures, the first time I did break my first lecture, we have 2-hour lectures for the Common Core, and I broke it into 3 sections. So each was about 25 minutes. But the first 25-minute lecture took me probably nearly 3 hours to record because I kept stopping, which I wouldn't do if there's students there. That's why I like Zoom better. But I kept messing up, and then I'd be like, oh, I'd erase the whole thing and then go back. And one time I did the whole 30 minutes and realized I had, instead of just sharing the screen, it was also recording me, but I didn't know that, my face. So I was probably, doing whatever you do and no one's looking. So I had to delete that whole thing. And now I just bite the bullet and just go for it, and it's much better. Just don't worry about the mistakes that are in there. Just put it up there.
So that just reminded me something. So next we'll go to Clara, maybe Evan? I don't know. Yeah. Okay. So Evan and then Gina. But I just wanted to say one more thing about recorded lectures. And this is one thing that maybe in the future could be something that's pretty interesting. But if you do upload it to, let's say, YouTube, for example, you have options to look at your statistics on YouTube too for your videos. So this is something that I recently looked at and I was like, holy cow. This is incredible. So for example, here's one of my videos, right? And I look at the analytics. So the analytics of the video, you can see this, right? So first of all, I can see how much they're watching. So my students are watching like 13 minutes and 39 seconds of the hour-long lecture. Here's another thing too is you look at your audience retention. So these, and now I know Gina has had this data forever on her movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, but now I finally get the data. And I see these kind of moments where it's like students, like people start dropping off like at certain times in the talk, right? And it's like, oh, was I flustered then or whatever? But the key thing you want is you want basically a consistent flat line. So that means that once they've like, oh, this is the video for me, then they just keep watching. That makes sense? So you'll have this kind of data if you upload it to YouTube. Whereas like your Panopto, they might not share that with you, even though they have it themselves. Okay? So that's just another thing. Okay, all right, Evan, you're up.
Yeah, since we were talking about exams, I just wanted to ask more generally about that kind of assessment, like switching from what would have been a timed final exam to something where you don't really have control over the environment. That's something I'm going to need to do in a few weeks, so I'd like to hear if anyone else has been in the same situation.
Okay, great. So open question to everyone. Also, Amy also said something about, in response to Caroline, she says, thanks for sharing creative exam question, Caroline. Depending on exam style, consider using technology to help proctor exams remotely. Respondus, lockdown browser, and monitor. So Amy, do you want to tell us a little bit more about that? I'm not familiar because I don't do any online tests, but maybe if anyone has done it, maybe you could tell us more about it.
It's not something that I've used yet for my course because we've been meeting in person, so I haven't had to utilize that technology, but it is the technology that's being recommended by George Mason University for those courses that are still planning on having a more structured, formal online exam or exam that's going to be done online by students. So there is software that can apparently block other screens on a computer so that the student cannot copy into a web browser to complete the exam responses. And there's also software that can record or monitor the student who's taking the exam, depending on how strict or what high stakes there are for exams. Personally, I do a lot of course projects and papers, so I don't plan on changing to an exam style, but I wanted to give the name of that software in case anyone else wanted to look into it.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, Amy. Has anyone else had any experience with doing online teaching? I'm sorry, online testing and proctoring?
Yeah, I did. So for the Common Core course that is as large as the one that Gina and Aaron and Stacy co-teach before, this one is called Hong Kong Culture in the Context of Globalization. And what we do is we have, at the end of the semester or the midterm, we have the 2 hours in class exam. And they cannot bring any other, I think they can bring notes, the lecture notes that we printed them every week. And then they can have the option of typing it on the computer or doing it in handwriting. But then starting 2 semesters ago, we make it open book. But that's the tricky part about how to do open book and still sort of have some kind of control mechanism for plagiarism. So we limit the open book material to the reading of each week, and they can only open it on their computer with PDF, and also the lecture handouts we gave them, and also their own sort of written notes during lecture. So they cannot browse, they cannot use browser during the exam. They cannot just copy and paste from Wikipedia. And because everybody will be typing the exam on the laptop, they will submit it to turn it in. But with the protest last semester, so we can no longer do in-class exams. So I think what we did is we expand the time limit from from 2 hours to 4 hours, also considering that maybe some people are in different time zone, students. So we just make the exam longer, and then we probably pose a question. My tutor sort of administer the logistics of it. I think what they did is they posed the exam question, say 4 p.m. and then the turn-in submission deadline will be 8 p.m. on that day. And it was fine. I think only 5 students missed the exam, and then they did follow up with them. So I think with switching to online, it's about flexibility and maybe giving a little bit more time to the students, and also give some tips about citation and plagiarism. Tell them that instead of quoting from Arjuna Pai Dure or Judith Butler or I don't know, Saki Assassin, can you just paraphrase them, right? Paraphrase the idea and just articulate it with your own words. Then it sort of helps them avoid plagiarism too.
Thanks, Alvin. Anyone else with tips about testing at the end of the semester? Yeah, I apologize. I haven't done any online testing just because I work in the humanities, but you know, I think that. Bye, Amy. Thanks for coming. Yeah, I think there will be people who have these issues, and a lot of people are talking about it. So I imagine that there will be stuff in forums and that kind of thing coming up. So anytime I see anything, I'll post it on Facebook so that you can see. Okay. But if anyone else has any tips on that, let us know. Sorry I couldn't help so much, Evan, on that question. Yeah.
No, it's okay. It's like a classical Chinese translation class.
Wow.
So it's kind of a unique situation, I guess. So there's just so much on the internet that would be great.
I mean, you know, law schools and, you know, all these other programs, you know, they have online tests, you know, they have to do this, you know, so I'm sure we can find the best practices from other disciplines and see how they do it.
Yeah.
Okay, Gina.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, so Gina and then Caroline? Okay, all right. All right, you're up.
Yeah, I wanted to answer actually Caroline's point on the Mentimeter, because I love Mentimeter too, and the polling tools in Zoom are not as good.
Yep.
But I attended a meeting like this one that was organized by one of our teaching development folks at Hong Kong U, and they tried the Mentimeter with it. And I know, Caroline, you said you've been doing okay with Zoom and Mentimeter together, but this person was doing Zoom and Mentimeter together and it just wasn't working. It was really hard to switch screens between Zoom and then the Mentimeter. From the learner's point of view, maybe not from the teacher's point of view, but from my point of view, it was really tough for me to do the Mentimeter and then also follow what she was talking about with her screens. And then she would put up different screens from these, from Mentimeter. And it was really difficult for me to figure out which one I was interacting with at what time. So just wanted to share my own experience with it, you know.
Okay, thanks, Gina. Yeah, and I think a lot of students will be on their phones. So I think that's the screen for the phone is much smaller. So it's just something to think about too. Okay, other questions, feedback, concerns? Yeah, go ahead, Carolyn.
I'll respond back to that one. I actually have no idea if they could see my screen or not because no one answered me about that. I'm not sure that it worked well in that sense, but what I just tried to do is I just explained, I used it as a way of, at least they answered. I had almost everybody in the class put an answer in there, which they weren't doing in the chat. And then I explained what I was seeing on the screen just in case they couldn't see it. So yeah, I'm not sure if the screens sharing worked quite the same way, but I felt like it did. At least they were used to engaging with that with me. So they participated that way, you know, which was good.
I'm so sad Zoom doesn't have word cloud because I love word cloud.
That was my favorite.
Yeah, and Zoom just has multiple choice essentially. That's all you can really do. So it's a little bit disappointing.
Do you all want to try out the multiple choice? I can make Gina the host and she can give us a multiple choice.
No, because I'd have to do it before the meeting.
Oh, before the meeting. So you got to set up
another
these
one
things.
like the breakout rooms where that one I know because I've done a poll before. And you have to set up the poll before the breakout rooms. They're pretty cool, but you need pre-planning. Plus the other thing that I learned about it that I didn't know, so if you do a poll through Zoom, all the questions are lumped together. So it's not like Mentimeter where you can say, okay, we'll do question 1, then question 2. You have to do a separate poll if you want to break. Otherwise, they see like all 10 questions at one time. So that's just my little point if you're doing both Mentimeter and Zoom polling. The big difference.
Okay, thanks for the tip. So set everything up beforehand if you're doing through Zoom, like the breakout rooms and also the polls, and you have to design it first. And if you want to kind of go at your pace for the polls, then you need to create separate polls as opposed to putting all the questions in one poll. Okay, thanks for clarifying that for us. Okay, other questions, thoughts, comments, feedback? Yeah?
I forgot how to raise my hand again. Sorry if I might have missed it if you guys talked about it because my son came up while you guys were talking about proctoring, but I can't remember what I read exactly, but there were some potential issues with proctoring the exams remotely, and it had to do with accessibility and people that might have to take a break because their kid ran into the room like that or other things. I can't remember exactly what the arguments were, but I think it's probably worth exploring that before you used any of those programs. There might be ways to do it just on time, total time they spend, or I don't know how they work, but just something to think about. And I have to say my policy in the end in our class last semester was just like, we put up a plagiarism thing they had to click on to say they agreed with before they could take the test. We were fairly tough with the grades if they did plagiarize. And kind of I don't know if this was just laziness or we just couldn't do anything else in that short time we had last semester. We just kind of felt like, there's not much we can do about it really, and it's kind of up to them.
I think it's admin's problem, personally. I think it's admin's problem.
Yeah, let me chime in for a second.
Them, right? And I don't know, we can try to call it out when we see it and make sure we tell them that if they do this in their jobs, they're going to lose their jobs later. But I don't know how much energy we can put into stopping it.
Yeah, let me chime in because I did go to another meeting. I didn't want to say anything before because I've never used it, but there are different companies that have different kinds of software for just proctoring exams remotely. And we don't sign on to any of them at Hong Kong U. So I for sure am not going to buy any kind of software to do this, but they can have these sign-on verifications where they take your picture, you have to have your camera on. It's, like sitting an exam and the software handles it for you supposedly. Now, if Hong Kong U is not signing on to it, I'm not doing it. So I liked Alvin's way of kind of, setting some time limits because there's only so much that they can, do within a time limit to get in trouble, although they find a way, believe me. But, the time limit at least prevents them from doing too much searching and copying and pasting, hopefully. And then the Turnitin hopefully will catch anything, so.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thanks for coming, Tiff. We'll see you later. Okay, bye. So as Tiff leaves, you can hear a chime in and a chime out, so you know if you're doing office hours. Yeah. Okay, you heard the chime, right? Okay, cool. Okay, other questions, concerns? One thing I will say about the testing too is, I know it's tough, right? But I mean, like if this had happened like 10 years ago, there would just be no test. There would just be no classes. There would just be no semester. So it's like, we're doing what we can. Yeah, so be flexible.
Yeah, not exactly. They did go through this with SARS, and it was 17 years ago, and they still had to do some teaching. So not quite correct, not quite correct. But everyone who did it with SARS, because I had some friends who did it with SARS, they say now it's much easier, clearly. So, I mean, because everything is much better. But they'd have the, instead of proctoring an exam, you'd have a assignment that you turn in. Instead of, lectures, they would have to do, readings and then kind of remote stuff. They do recordings still. So, yeah.
Do what you can. And one attitude I've had is, try not to let anyone slip through the cracks, but at least provide a platform for the students who really want to do a good job to demonstrate that they're doing a good job. Make a platform for them. Okay. Other questions, thoughts, anything? No? Okay. All right. Well, I'll stay here for another 5 minutes or whatever if anyone wants to ask any other questions or talk to me just to hang out. But otherwise, thanks everyone for coming. Much appreciated. We can do a clap or a thumbs up. Yeah.
I'll do both.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah. Leihua, are you looking for the clap? It's on reactions next to the pause and stop recording.
You do multiple claps? Oh, no.
Yeah. So next to pause and stop recording on the bottom.
Clap again.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would just like to say thank you for that, because it's really helpful to feel like, to remind ourselves we're part of a community. You know, I spend most of my time at home now, and it's really nice. You know, the tips are helpful too, but it's also just nice to
hang out.
Talk about stuff. Yeah, exactly. So thanks for that.
I mean, it's also, I was thinking about this too. It's like, you know, we're talking, you know, Gina's talking about that disaster capitalism kind of article, right? And it's like, if you do a bad job, you know, it could be a good thing. Ideologically, I understand that. But then kind of ethically, part of me is like, no, I can't do that to my students. But then one thing I can
That's
say,
why I don't like that article.
Yeah. But then one thing I can say though, is that disaster capitalism works in favor of the institutions. But if we get together as a group and hang out and share stuff within the community, then we are supporting academia, which is supposed to be something that's extra institutional. We're a community, not because of institutions, but because we're a community. Yeah. So doing things like this, I think, is really helpful. So yeah.
Thanks so much, Jason.
Yeah. Lei Hui, I think you were saying something, and then we cut you off.
I forgot how to applaud or raise hand.
Okay. So all right, applaud. You go to your chat. Right?
Oh God, I think I got it.
Okay.
Now.
Yeah, that's applaud. Good. Yeah, you did it. Okay. And then raising your hand should be in the chat. There should be an option to like. There should be like an ellipsis, or actually under your participants. You know, directly under the names and the cameras, there should be like a raise hand. Yeah. So.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, you got it. You just raised your hand. Good job. Okay. And Alvi raised his hand. Did you want to say something? Or Alvi's hand went down.
Just again, thanks for bringing us all together, and it's great to see everybody from different connections, even not going to international conferences. And last but not least, congratulations again for your new upcoming job. I think we've been together with you, this journey with you for
thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, you know, and I hope that we can be like this, not be institutionalized, but be like making, you know, keeping community together in other ways. Gina said, if you want to make this a regular meeting, yeah, I'd be happy to join if anyone wants to meet regularly or anything like that. Okay. All right. So I've recorded this, so I'll post it later on YouTube, and I'll put it on Facebook as well, so that other people can see it. If you have a problem with being posted, let me know, send me, and then we'll talk. Okay. All right. Cool. Okay. All right. I'll just hang out here if anyone wants to ask me more questions. I'll see you later. Bye, everyone. Good to see you.
Bye. Yeah, I was thinking maybe you should cut out the part where I'm talking about our administration.
Yeah.
You're right. That's not very professional. I forgot we were recording and when you reminded me. So just cut out that part.
I'll try to figure out. What if I can't? What if I can't figure out how to do the cut?
I'm wondering if you really need to post this.
Okay. Because part of it is there were multiple parties who said they can't make the time, but they want to go.
Yeah, I'm thinking YouTube's just too public.
Okay.
Maybe you can post it and here on Zoom actually, and put a code on it.
What if I post it on YouTube, but make it post it on YouTube, but make it so that only people who click on it, only people who ask me for it can watch it.
Yeah, that would be fine. Okay. That would be fine. But optimal, just cut out the part where I'm, ragging on upper admin.
Okay. I'm gonna stop recording right now.